Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
All right, welcome back to the Stream Center for this week's episode of Run for Fun. We wanted this show to help more people find the joy in running, and that joy is definitely on display this week in the Olympics. I'm your host, Leigh Spann. I'm a meteorologist at WFLA in Tampa, but I've been running now for about 14 years, and I can definitely thank my all the runner friends that I have met along the way for helping me to find that joy. And of course, number one on that friend list, Coach Maria. Coach Maria, how's it going?
It's going good. I missed the studio last week, so I'm happy to be back.
Well, have you been watching the Olympics?
Of course I have.
I am glued.
So fun. I've been trying not to watch during the day. I've been trying to wait till later at night, so I have something to look forward to. But it's really hard, especially with track and field. I'm like, I really want to see what's going on.
I have been glued to my couch for the last couple of days.
So fun.
So we have a very special guest with us. We want to go ahead and bring in Meb Keflezighi, who is a silver medalist in the Olympics in the marathon. He is in our world. He is like Cher Madonna.
Yeah,
he has
absolutely.
one name. He is a one-named man. He is Meb, and he lives in Tampa.
Everybody knows Meb.
Meb, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Leigh. Great to see you, Maria.
Also, thank you for living in Tampa. We really appreciate that.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah, your wife appreciates it too. Isn't she from this area? Is that why you guys moved back down here?
Absolutely, yeah. Jordanis is from here. She grew up here, going elementary, middle school, and high school and college. So I don't know where Tampa was until I met my wife, but I'm living in it now.
So I have to ask you before we get into it, how do you feel about the weather here in training?
Leigh, that's the your area there. I'm like, honestly, I don't sweat. I'm not the person that sweat, and I love to sweat when I work out. But in Florida, I just open the door and go out. And
I know you don't even have to exercise, right?
So it's a little rough, but at the same time, as a retired athlete, this is a great place, and I don't have to run as many miles. Back in my days, I used to train about 100 to 130 miles a week, and I barely sweat any sweat. But now I run 4 or 5 miles or 6 miles, and I can't stop sweating for half hour.
Yeah, that's right.
And I will say that it is amazing. That we have the street, the Bayshore Boulevard, and to see an Olympian just taking his morning run out there is really amazing to see. So I always wave to you, even though I'm inside my car and you don't see me, because I'm like, that's Meb running on the same streets that I run on.
And I have to tell you, Meb, I can't tell you how many of my clients have run by you or said something to you and you run with them. Yeah. And they have said something to me about, Meb actually ran with me for a little bit and talked to me. And it means the world to the recreational athletes in this area. I hope you know that.
No, it's, part of being a distance runner is to be tangible, which means you can't go to NBA or NFL or other baseball games and things like that professionally and say, hey, how was your run? Or what do you think of the Olympic Games? Or did you see the 10K or whatever?
Yeah, true.
That's the accessibility that we have, and I tremendously enjoy it. And when runners come and want to run 400 meters, half a mile with me, as long as I'm not doing my tempo or long run, which is way behind me, I enjoy the camaraderie that brings us together and have fun. And I really do equally enjoy it running with them.
Well, we all appreciate it.
We certainly do. So let's bring the viewer and the listener back to your Olympics. So the Silver Olympics. I know you've been to 4 different Olympics, but let's start with the one that brought you the silver medal. How did that training go? How did that race go? What do you remember most?
The silver medal was a turnaround for my notoriety in the sport. It was in 2004 Athens Olympics, and I had I made the Olympic team both in the 10K and the marathon. But to be in Athens, in Greece, where the Olympics started, and to be the original course of the marathon to run it, the decision was not easy, but it was very convincing to say the least. And I decided to focus on the marathon, even though I did not win the trials. I won the trials in the 10K. My likelihood of medaling was more in the 10K, but to be hot, hilly, and humid, it was going to equalize everybody. And I think one of the prestigious events in the Olympics also is the marathon. It's into the closing ceremony. I wanted to partake of that. And what a treat it was to be able to run the original course. And, we in the United States, the United States Olympic Committee and the United States Track and Field gave us advice on how to execute a good plan in that course. And I did, and just be patient. And Dina Castor, who won the bronze medal the week before, kind of confidence was up high because we trained together. We in Mammoth Lakes, California. So it was kind of predicting what was going to happen, even though my fastest time, as you can see in the middle, that I was the 39th fastest guy in the field going to the field, into the starting line. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have confidence in your training, and that's what I did. And we did it beautifully, executed a good plan, and it all came together. And to win that silver medal, it was magical. That's where I met my dad for the first time after 5 years of separation when he has to escape from Eritrea. Met us in Athens, so it has a lot of special memory for me.
Wow. I didn't know about that
either,
part.
yeah.
Yes. So how did you go from being the 38th best to the second best?
You know, believe in yourself, believe in your training. Coach Bob Larson and I, and having training partners. You know, not a lot of people can keep up with me, but I hired somebody, Mario Arce, to help me on the bike. And we were doing at 9,000 feet at altitude, some incredible 2-mile repeats and like 26-mile long run and about 457 for 15-mile tempo at 7,000 feet. You know when confidence is coming, but you can't play defense in the sport of running, but you have to execute a good plan. And the plan was start slow, work hard, make strategically good, wise moves. And as I did that, you know, up to a 15K, which is about 9.5, I gave thumbs up. I felt great. And then the hills start climbing. And then I was in 6th place. And then now I saw the world record holder, Paul Turgot from Kenya, struggling a little bit. I made a decisive decision. I got to go now. Got it down to 4 people. All I thought about it now was just get 1 person, and I'm a medalist. And my goal was go to the Olympics in 2004, try to win a medal for our country. I really didn't care what color it was going to be, but I was fortunate enough to win the silver medal. And Stefano Boldini from Italy had a great day. I had a fabulous day, but he even had a better day. So to be able to just stand there and see our flag risen, it was a pretty magical moment for me. As an athlete who always wanted to be in the Olympics and win the Olympic medal, man, that was a special moment.
So out of curiosity, since that was a hard race, what do you tell yourself when it's getting hard? Like when you go to that dark place, what do you tell yourself?
You know, Maria, in Athens, it was hard, but I didn't hit the wall where there's a magical wall that we hit 18 to 20, but I didn't hit that wall there. But what kept me going is I can't believe dream is going to come true. So I threw my hat, tried to catch Stefano Boldini, but at that point, it was enough gap. In fact, I talked to him in Italian at one point, and I said, "Andiamo uno a due," which because I live in Italy for a little bit. And I said, "Let's go catch the guy in front of us." Mm-hmm. And I should have made that move right there and go for the gold, but he kind of looked at me, "Who's this guy? African American, speak Italian." But I should have made a move that should have tricked him out, but I didn't, you know. But that race, I felt really the best shape I've ever been, and I've been to other times where I had the dark spots. And mentally could not go. Your mind says go, your body says can't. But that day was a magical day.
Oh, those magical moments are so few and far between. It's so awesome that you got it on that day.
Yeah, I mean, on the day.
Yeah,
I mean,
on the day that it counts.
You don't even get that day every year. You get that day every 4 years, and that was actually your second Olympics. You'd gone to as the 10K in the 10K, 4 years before. So, I mean, this was a new distance for the Olympics, and you crushed it.
And that was my fourth marathon ever. So to your point, Leigh, is when I was at the Olympic in Sydney, Australia, before I left the stadium, I had the flu, I got sick, I ran a PR, but I just said, you know what, I want to win a medal for our country. So I left Sydney with that mind of goal, saying I want to win a medal, but I didn't know it was going to be in the 10K. I thought at that time it was going to be the 10K, not the marathon, because I haven't done a marathon yet. And then I was pretty convinced after my second marathon in Chicago. New York, my first one, I hated it and never wanted to do it again. And then Chicago.
That's my favorite story. That you were like, this is terrible. I don't like this marathon distance. And then you go on to be one of the best.
You know, credit to my mom. Even my mom, she saw me run many times in the 5K and 10K. She's like, okay, 5K, 10K, okay, no more marathons for you, because she saw how painful, how badly I was hurting. But I'm glad I didn't stop because it worked out really well. As you might have read my book, 26 Marathon. I've done 26 marathon after that, and one marathon for each mile as a story, because people ask you, how far is the, Boston Marathon, New York Marathon, or Athens? They're all 26.2. They just change in hills and flat or uphill, but they all measured to be 26.2. So now I wrote the 26 marathons book.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me about Boston? Because that's my favorite. That's my favorite win of yours to watch. Like,
Maria, yeah, I saw you have something on your arm.
Yeah.
from Boston. I've run Boston. It's a very special course for me. So, and just the year after the bombing was a very tough year for everybody. And so just tell me about it. I've always wanted to ask you about it.
If you are a runner, you are measured if you have done the Boston Marathon. So even when I was at UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, I tell my 5K, 10K runner, and they says, have you done the Boston Marathon? I'm like, no, I'm still in the 5K, 10K. But Boston Marathon is iconic. It's the oldest besides the Olympics, and it's point-to-point course. And 2013, a tragic happened where we lost 4 people during the bombing that was exploded. And I was there at the bombing, just missed it by 5 minutes. So it was very, very personal for me. And to go back, Boston Strong, I try to give a Meb Strong, and the good Lord was with me because I wrote the victim's name to draw inspiration, to carry them through that journey of 26.2 miles. But at the same time, you can want it, but it all has to come together.
Yeah.
And I remember telling from Hopkinton 5 minutes or so before we left the start, I tell my coaches, don't worry, you're not going to send me into the last 5K. I'm going to come from behind and try to execute a good plan. And, we always believed that we could win the race, Coach Larson and I, and we always thought we could run 2:07, 2:08 on that course. But we tried and we didn't succeed. But that day was a bigger impact, and the crowd was so enthusiastic. They're riding on the streets and posters holding. And so I just went for it. 5 miles, which is, as a coach, that's very risky. Do not do that kind of mentality. But the emotion got the best out of me. And it was I had to make a calculated decision. My goal was to win top 3 and run a personal best. And I did that. And what a thrill of a lifetime it was to be able to pull the victory for all of us.
Because there had not been an American winner at the Boston Marathon since the early 80s. So not only were you an American who was winning it, but it was at a time that we were all, the year after the bombing, we were all still grieving about that. And you cemented yourself in the history books and in the hearts of just about every American runner that's out there.
Oh, I cried like a baby when you won. I was like crying. Oh man, it was beautiful.
Me too. I cried in that national anthem. And we all have events, like for the Olympics. I won silver medal. I won the New York City Marathon, and gave me a lot platform. But like you said, Leigh, I cemented my legacy, I guess, at the Boston Marathon because what was on the line. And I was 2 weeks shy of my 39th birthday, so most people did not have me as a favorite to win. And I did not. I was, 2 weeks shy of my 39th birthday, less than 1% chance of winning, but you can never test the heart. My heart was in the right place, and I felt all along that, I wanted to. It still is my fastest time ever, even though the Boston Marathon is not known to be the full course. But my goal was to win top 3 and run a personal best, and I executed a good plan. And Greg Myers, who was the previous champion since 1981, I believe, and he said, you know what, Meb, 83, sorry, I'm sorry. He said, you are one of the toughest guy and the smartest guy that get it done. So he wanted an American to win. So, and then in the race, I just executed a good plan, and the other guys made a mistake, let me go. But I said, if you're going to catch me, I'm going to make you pay for it, and they never caught me.
Well, so interesting that you say that. Now, when you are racing, are you tactical on the course, or do you have a plan going in, or is it a mixture of that? Do you have a pace plan going in where you're like, I'm going to try to stay to this pace for my first 15 or 20, or does it depend on who shows up or who's going to be there? It's
the coach's responsibility to prepare you to that starting line healthy and ready, and preparation is the key to success. But on race day, once the gun goes off, it's all my coach Joe Vijo, one of the coaches, Mammoth Lake, said, it's the 9 inch above the shoulder. You have to be the thinking person, make this executive decision to say, hey, I feel good, and assess your competitors, ahead of time. But everybody's going to make different plans, different strategies. So you have to adapt to that and make your own decision. And I'm so glad I did. It was risky, really, really big risk to go. But at the same time, I just wanted to, what was on the shoulder of U.S. distance running. And for me, I've been visualizing that for over 365 days. And once that gun went off, and when the Ethiopians and Kenyans were trying to slow it down, I just said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. If they catch me, they catch me. But if not, I'm going to make it pay for it. And guess what?
It's the big difference between recreational runners and elite runners, right? Like, we're always trying to go for the personal best, and they are too, but they also have to be very tactical. And
as a coach now myself, like with Ron Dot, I tell people you can run your own race. For us as an elite athlete, we can't. Only like Boston, I ran my own race, and then Chicago, probably 2002, my second marathon, I ran my own race. But the other time, it's like tactics. If he makes a move, you have to cover that move. How should you do it? So many things variable that can go on. But as a everyday athlete,
very stressful.
Yeah, it is. As an everyday athlete, you can get a split the way you want to. But as a competitor, you hope to be there at the halfway and then, then later on. But it's very difficult to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Well, and you've done very well because you've gotten the silver medal. You won Boston and you won the New York Marathon, which you are the only person to ever do that, to medal in the Olympics and then to win both the Boston and the New York Marathon. So that it just shows that you do have some tactical abilities.
Yes, for sure.
Going to the marathons, after I won the silver medal, that was my next goal, to win the New York and the Boston Marathon. And yes, I was the first person to ever do those. And, the Olympics have been around for a long time, and the Boston has been a long time, and New York's been around for a long time. But to just have those goals and execute it, and you have to be ready. They were not, I like to credit myself as one of the consistent marathon, ever, but my wins have been spread out, longevity in terms of 2004, the silver, 2009, New York, and 2014 Boston, and doing the small things to maintain your body and the enthusiasm to have fun and not burn out. And I have my number of injuries, even including I didn't go to the Beijing Olympics. Most people think I went to Beijing Olympics because of my fourth Olympic team, but that was the year I had pelvic fracture. So you have to give it natural, recover, and then there's no guarantee in life, but you have to do the small things that make a big difference. And I feel blessed that the team behind me helped me be the best version of myself.
Yeah, to be winning at 39.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who's now past 39, I know that's very difficult.
Do you have a secret, to that longevity? Do you have a mantra that you use to keep going when it gets harder as you get older, or do you train it differently?
Absolutely. Meb Foundation, the book that I wrote, is a good one to give you the nutrition, the cross training, the small things that like drills and icing and normal taking is just resting. It's not about just workouts. It's how you take care of yourself. There's a great coach named John Wooden from UCLA. He says it's not about the 2 hours of practice, but how you take care of the next 22 hours are crucial.
Absolutely.
And soft surface. I love Bayshore, but sometimes you see me running on the grass. That's one to protect my ankles and knees. But it's not as smooth sometimes, so I had my number of falls in that course. I try to not get embarrassed, but those are the small things that help. And then at the same time, back in the days it was run that extra mile. Nowadays it's stretch more.
Oh, right.
Consistency. If you can stay healthy and consistent, you're going to achieve great things.
Has your mileage changed over the years, the older you get, or did you try to keep with the same mileage?
That's a good point, Maria. As I talk in my book, Meb Foundation, I did 9-day cycle. There's 7 days in a week. People often ask me, do you run every day? I'm like, I run 12 times a week. And they're like, what? There's only 7 days. I'm like, well, I run double days. But as to your point, I started doing 9-day cycle. So instead of 7 days, so to give a little bit as we got older, more recovery time in between, which is crucial because we are type A personality. We want to log those miles, even though it's going to get better. It's going to get better. No, it's not going to get better sometimes. So you might just take one less mile and extend your training to 9 days or 10-day cycle.
And so if for those of you watching, you can see that some of the two books, but I know you've written multiple, I think three. Well, yeah, three. But these are ones that if you are a runner, you need to read. Certainly Run to Overcome and then Meb for Mortals, because Meb is not mortal for a runner, and he is telling you how to be like him. But Run to Overcome, why don't we talk a little bit about that story and how you came to America, and that's in this book, and it allows you to. I always say your life story is just as inspirational, if not more, as your running resume.
Thank you, Leigh. Is very, very fortunate that I wrote Run to Overcome, my autobiography. It's more about family autobiography because I was born in Eritrea, where there was a war for independence that lasted for 31 years. And my dad was wanted by the Ethiopian soldiers, so he had to walk over from Eritrea to Sudan about 225 miles, not knowing when he's going to get his next meal or his next sleep. In fact, he would sleep on the trees because he didn't want to be eaten by hyenas, bit by snake or scorpion and things like that. So,
and what year was this?
1981.
Okay.
1981, and then I was 5 years old when he left, and I didn't see him until I was 10 years old. So the story of Run to Overcome is there to give you more. And then how do we survive, and then how my running started in 7th grade PE class. 1988 was in fact Olympic year, but the PE teacher declared said if you run hard, you're gonna get A. If you or B, and you're gonna get to get an A, you have to run 6:15 as a 7th grader, and an 8 minute for the girls. And well, I don't want to disappoint my parents, so I ran as hard as I could to get the T-shirt and an A. And I ran a 5:20, and he goes, "You're gonna go to the Olympics." But I didn't speak English, so I don't have no idea what the word Olympic meant. So I'm like pointing out like the shirt and trying to A, see if I got the A in the class. And he called the high school coach, Ed Ramos, and he says, this little one's going to be good because my 2 oldest brothers ran. And that's what Run to Overcome is. And my brothers and sisters have gone to do some great things. And so if you can read it, you'll get the more detail of, including my pelvic stretch fracture where I was not able to walk or stand because I didn't realize I had pelvic stretch until 10 weeks later, but I was crawling in the hotel. But I remember my wife, Jordanis, and I and my brother, we thought it was over my running career. So we prayed about it to see, the silver medal was the end of it, but eventually came back from that and made 2 Olympic team and win New York and win the Boston Marathon. So it's a pretty fascinating story. I feel blessed to be able to share that with others.
You have overcome a lot, but what an inspiration that is to anyone. And what, we always talk about the running being a metaphor for life. I mean, you can't give up. You gotta keep showing up and make it there.
Yeah. But how long have you been married?
I'll be 19 years, been married, and we actually got married in Tampa. And my first date was 20 years ago. It would be this month.
Okay.
Right after the Olympics. I met Jordanos in San Jose, California, a week before the Olympic trials. And she went for a wedding to LA and then decided to go to the Eritrean Festival. Every 4th of July, we have Eritrean Festival, different locations. She drove up to San Jose, and I was coming from Mammoth to also to San Jose where my brother lived, and her brother was playing, my other brother was playing, and we met there, and I invited her to come to Mammoth. It didn't come. I invited her to go to Athens. Didn't happen, so I said, well, if I'm going to see you and take you a date, I said, I got to do it after the Olympics. So I hand carried those flowers to come from Athens to Germany, and then Germany to DC, and DC to here, and the flight attendant goes, those are beautiful flowers, the bouquet that I got the Olympic as a silver medalist. And she says, well, you can have them for the next 6-7 hours, but I need them back. And
I love that story.
Isn't that a great, imagine your first date, you get silver medal winning flowers. That's your first date.
No kidding. That's incredible.
I'd like to give a shout out to Olive Garden. And I'm not endorsing them, but they were gracious enough to, didn't we just see you on TV? And then, so that was in the house when I came with the silver medal home here in Tampa.
Oh, that's so crazy.
So that was your second Olympics. So what do you remember about your first Olympics, the 10K?
My first Olympic was still my most memorable time, even though I didn't win a medal, because it was in Sydney, Australia, prior to 9/11, and it was we were there for about 3.5 weeks training camp, and I did a 10K. They had a prelim, believe it or not. There was a prelim for the 10K, which they don't do that anymore. But I remember just how the hospitality down under went above and beyond to make sure we had a wonderful experience. I stayed in the village. In fact, there was the virus that was going around. I got the virus, and which is not good. But my parents were there. What I remember is my dad, and this is the American dream. I sacrificed myself to get you guys to safe land. Now we're safe land. You're going to represent the United States. You're going to win tonight. I'm like, Dad, I can't win tonight. He was disappointed. He's like, well, you got to think positive. I'm like, Dad, I have not run 28 minutes for the 10K. Those guys that Haile Gebrselassie from Ethiopia, Paul Turga from Kenya, they're running 26:30. I'm like, I hope I didn't get lapped. That's what my mind frame was. But he was kind of like, no. But I did tell him, not tonight, but hopefully in the future it will happen. And then so that was very memorable. I finished 12th. I ran under 28 minutes, and I was so happy to be representing the United States, red, white, and blue. I said, you know what? Next time I want to win a medal. And like I said earlier, that medal was going to be in the 10K, and it turned out to be in Athens Olympics, the silver medal in the marathon. But Sydney was incredible. It was a lot of fun. You get done so quick that you have 2 weeks of vacation to be able to enjoy the other sports, and then your other teammates in the track and field or other United States different sports.
Because the marathon is like the last event. So you have to think about it for the whole 15, 16 days, right?
Absolutely. So, and then the other Olympics that I went to, didn't even go to Beijing. I thought I was going to be able to go back there and try to defend the silver medal, but it didn't happen. but it all happens in God's time. But never give up. The metaphor for life, that was the dark spot for me in life, possibly, to be able to not go to the Olympics and not watch it from the living room. Say, is this it? Is it over? But never give up. And to be able to overcome that. I remember I was watching it with my wife. The marathon, I said, I definitely could have gotten a bronze medal, maybe silver in Beijing. And to know that internally and to be able to come back from that win New York and then make another Olympic team now in 2012, I ended up getting, I didn't go to the opening ceremony or closing ceremony, but I had my daughters there to be able to enjoy the experience. And 49 family members came to watch me run my last Olympics, and incredible. I was struggling. I thought about dropping out. People at that time were asking, oh, do you enjoy the senior where you run? I'm like, that day I was, because it was St. Joseph Cathedral. I was going to drop out on that point because I was 21st place at the halfway mark, thinking I can't do it anymore. I got a New York City Marathon that I signed up, so I was trying to save myself. But and then I realized, looking down my jersey, I said, you are representing the United States. Just put your head down and start grinding. No matter how many people come from behind, past you, you need to get that finish line if you're going to be an example to your daughters or others. And positive thinking is important. That's why you asked it earlier. What goes in your head? It says, you know what, I can do it. And from 21st place, I was in 15th and then 10th. And then before I realized 5K to go, in a quaternium course, my coach pointed out 6 fingers. I'm like, I can see the Japanese guy, so I'm going to sit out, kick him. But then, unfortunately, our sport is tainted with drugs also. So I'm like, who's in the front? I didn't even know who they are. So just in case if somebody get busted, I want to be the one moving from 4th place to the bronze medal. So that was my motivation. There was an American guy named Phil from Atlanta, and he said, come on, USA, you can get it. I hear you. I'm trying to go. Literally. And then I grabbed the flag, and then I passed the Santos from Brazil, who was 2-time New York City champion. I said, good job, the Santos. But in my head, I'm thinking, go past him as fast as you can.
Just keep going.
And I wanted to finish with a flag like this, but he was coming after me, so I tucked it in and kept pushing and pushing. And it gave me a great honor to Burns in the United States and come in 4th place, which is, it opened up another doors for me because I believe I can win another Olympic team, make another Olympic team, or I believe that I could win New York and Boston. The confidence came from that race. If it wasn't for that 2012 Olympic Games, I didn't think the Boston Marathon would have happened.
And that was 8 years after you gotten the silver medal.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the fact that you're 4th, that many years later shows that you are definitely keeping your body in shape.
Well, and I think it's funny as recreational athletes, most of my people struggle with, if they have a bad race, they think every race is going to be bad from there on, or they just go into this dark space where and I'm like, no, one race, we got to check it off the list. You never know where it's going to bring you in the future. You're going to be tougher. You're going to get something from that race, even if it was not your day.
That is very important. That's why you have to finish the race, because sometimes if you could do that on a bad day, imagine what you could do on a great day. Yeah. So that's the reason why you want to be able to finish. And for me, to your point, Maria, 2012, even though I was thinking New York when I was running the Olympic Games, because of Hurricane Sandy, it got canceled. So it could have been nothing. So, and then the bombing happened. And I'm like, give you another source of energy to motivation. Sure. And 2013, I was not really ready for the race in New York, but they invited me to come. They say, we want you to come and go. And I had a disaster race. I finished 20-something, and I ran 222 or something.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
That's a bad race in New York, but it turned out to be a perfect race on Boston in that spring. So, but it might give them the false. Oh, maybe he's 39. He's over the hill that time, but internally, you know that you're just not ready.
How do you keep that internal? How do you keep that internal fire there to know that you could have done better on a different day? It was just a bad day.
You gotta love the sport. You gotta love the sport. You gotta love in your training, and then because running is a metaphor for life. Marathon is a metaphor for life. You can see the progress that you're making. Yes, sometimes it looks impossible, but if you can get to 5 miles, you can make the 8 miles, you make the 12 miles, the light is coming to fruition now.
It's getting me. I really want to run a marathon right now,
19 miles and so get your long run in, and then you will overcome. And then only you know what you're capable of doing, and your coach, obviously, to help you be the best version.
But even if your coach knows, you have to know internally, too. It can't just be your coach telling you. You have to know internally.
So when you were training in altitude. So how much does that help when you go back down to sea level?
Altitude training definitely helps tremendously. And for shorter races like 5K, 10K, I used to not sit, but come to sea level about 10 days prior to the competition. But for marathon pace, you can do those at altitude, so you can come immediately down. Sometimes before I won New York or before I won the Boston Marathon, I would come 3 days out on a red eye just to stay at altitude as long as possible. But it helps us tremendously because you're building red blood cells, and when you come to a sea level, it's not a breathe, but it makes it a lot easier. And some people compare, like, which one is harder, the altitude or the humidity of Texas or Florida? And I think the altitude is, before I say altitude is hard for sure, but living here in Tampa, the humidity is hard because altitude, you can adapt slowly, you can get used to it, but you can finish fast. But, running the humidity is difficult because once you open the door, and you're
so dehydrated immediately. Trying to keep up on the hydration is next level. But
so
they call it poor man's altitude.
I was going to say, do you think you think the humidity gives us advantage when we go to cooler climates?
I'm pretty sure we'll definitely will. I guarantee that. That's going to be breathing the cakes. It's going to make it a lot easier, just like altitude does.
And it just makes you tougher.
Yeah,
it just makes you mentally tougher.
Now, I said at the beginning that Meb is, a celebrity in the fact that he's like a single name Meb. And I was even telling JB here that you have a foundation that's just named Meb, and every runner knows the Meb Foundation. So I want you to talk about that because I know it's very important to you that your Meb Foundation touches children, because it was when you were a middle schooler that someone told you were going to the Olympics.
Thanks, Leigh. Yeah, my dad always made us like my full name is Mebratom, and you write something, maintain, excellent balance, R for room or something, those things. So I try to live by the Meb Foundation, maintain excellent balance through health, education, and fitness. And I hope that I've been on this pedestal, on the platform, to give back, because so many people have given me back to be the best version of myself. And with the Meb Foundation, we want to give back to youth in terms of health, education, and fitness. And I've had a great honor here in Tampa to be able to visit schools. Some of them need gears, and others just need the motivation to let them know that we care for them. And self-esteem comes from sports. I really believe that. And interaction, that a lot comes from sports. So I think that's where the Meb Foundation, and we've been very fortunate also with New Balance now to team up with me to be able to give back to the kids that are in need. And then, there's other races like Carlsbad 5,000 in San Diego, which we also partnering with them up a little bit to be able to, fundraise, because usually the fundraisers has been New York and Boston. And my good friend here, Ramki and Radha Kanuri, has been able to give back as much as they can to help me fundraise. But it is important because it just changes people's lives. Sometimes people are interacting and says, I can have these shoes, or I can have this notebook or this backpack, because they never had it before.
Amazing.
Because we've talked before about the charity runners and how you don't understand how important that is to those charities. That is how they are raising by you raising that money to run the race. It has an exponential effect because you're going through these charities, and that's what you're saying is you have Meb Foundation runners in the New York Marathon who then in turn help kids all across the country.
Absolutely. We could not have done those work that I do without the charity runners. And I am my charity runner myself in Boston. I ran for the 10 year of my Boston win. I ran for the Meb Foundation. I have run for the MR8 Martha Richard Foundation, the 8-year-old boy who got killed during the bombing. And I also have done fundraising for the Team for Kids for New York. So it is important to be behind the scene to see those mileage, those sacrifices, those loneliness that you put in, early rise while other people are sleeping in, and for a cause. Because especially when you're going through the challenges on mile 18 or 19, when you look down that jersey, you're doing it for a cause. And it's very important that there's all the sacrifice and time and fundraising they have to do to be able to be the starting line and
hard
compete.
To fundraise.
Yeah, and get to that finish line.
Mm-hmm. And you again know firsthand how important it is to fall in love with exercising and education. I mean, your family pushed that very hard on your entire sibling crew, and you guys have all excelled because of it.
Absolutely. We've been very fortunate. It takes a village to raise a child, and there's been a lot of mentors and advisors that helped me and my siblings to get to that maximum level. 9 out of 10. I'm one of 11. I have a sister, and Ruth, but all of them have gone to do some great work, and they even got second degree, and I'm just a person that has that attention. But fortunately for all our family, they have worked extremely hard to be the best version. And version of themselves in their fields and also be positive contributor to society.
Now, do your kids run?
That's yes, my daughters, I have 3 daughters, 18, 16, and 14. Sarah and Johanna, soccer player. They all played soccer, but Fiore is the one that run for Plant High School here in Tampa. Sarah also did run the 800 for Plant, but now Fiore is focused on the cross country and the mile and 3,200 meters. So yeah, I mean, just
do you have trouble like being a dad and not a coach, or are you coaching them, or how do you I get that question a lot. People are like,
I just want to be a dad. I don't want to get fired as a coach.
That's how I am.
A coach
too.
can get fired, but I just sit back and relax, and I could be as involved as she want me to be, but I could be being a distant also. But I just want her to have fun, and if she can have great, and then soccer is my other passion. So if they want to play soccer here and there, I'm happy to jump on a ball with them.
That's how I was always with my kids, and now my kids both run. They're both runners, but I didn't really push them to do it. Yeah. It just was fun. We made it fun.
You want to, but at the same time, they gotta want it. Just as I said a lot earlier, you have to want it, you have to love it, and the weather is a little difficult here to put it with, so I can't tell her. Sometimes a couple of days we're talking about it's like 90 degrees, and how am I supposed to run that? And I feel you, but at the same time, you gotta find a way, treadmill, other things to get it done. If you love it that much, you're gonna find a way to do it.
That's true.
If you love it, you're gonna find a way to do it.
That's
even after a tropical storm where it feels like 1,000 degrees outside, there's branches on the ground, but a lot of us have been outside running because it brings us joy, because it is fun. A lot of times, Meb, that's why we created the name of our podcast, is because we want people to remember that it is fun. You can get into the weeds, you're following a plan, you have this, you kind of get added stress, but we do it because it's fun. We're not trying to get a silver medal. We're not trying to beat the next guy. We're just trying to be the best us. And that's what we want people to remember.
And Meb, if you could tell the recreational athletes out here, because we have a lot of recreational athletes, 1 or 2 things that could really have an impact on them, what would you tell them?
As you guys started the podcast, is run for fun. That's the most important thing. And I remember my good friend Rich Levy, who helped me tremendously over my career, says the day you're going to retire is when you start not having fun. And I did not start fun, just my body can keep up, but I still run now. So my advice to those recreational runners is like, the hardest part is tying your shoes and getting out the door no matter what it is. True. And 2 is, you're not going to regret it if you ran. You're like, oh, that was bad for first mile, but I'm glad I did it. And the other one is just consistency. Know when you're going to do the workout, because sometimes we get distractions and things like that. Life gets in the way, but if you have a routine, if you're a morning person, do it in the morning. Then if you are in the afternoon, find out the time when you're down, and then find others, because if you're going to meet somebody, you're going to show up.
Yeah. I feel like Meb could be on our podcast every week.
Yes, we talk about consistency, we talk about having fun, we talk about loving it, we talk about having accountability with people. So finally, have you been paying attention to the Olympics? Have you been glued to your chair as much as I have?
Absolutely. I love the Olympics, and Paris is a special place. I feel like, I've been traveling a little bit, but every time I get an opportunity, where I was in Beach to Beacon for John Bonet's race in Cape Elizabeth, I started watching with the host. I was staying with the host family, so we started watching. Sports unites us. Yeah. We just met for the first time, and we're watching Olympics together, and I also watch it with my family, especially more Jordanos, my wife, and Fiore. And she's been texting me, hey, did you watch that race? Did you watch that? So it's been a lot of fun to be able to just enjoy it. We have gone to the Olympic trials before, even though I was not participating. So we have a special interest in the track and field area, but also all sport, gymnastics, soccer, and other events, just to be able to cheer for USA or whoever other country that you're cheering for also. But for me, it's USA. And then if I've been to places where I've traveled, I'll cheer for them. But also as a New Balance athlete, I'm cheering for those New Balance athletes as well.
So who are you looking forward to watching as we go forward for the rest of the track and field?
I mean, the 400-meter hurdles is getting all the attention. Sydney McLaughlin is going and Ball is going to be incredible race. I think that's, there's always some people in different events going on. You always pay attention to the 100 meters, a mile, and the marathons, and about the 10K Grant Fisher from the United States. What an incredible race.
Yeah, that was incredible.
That was an incredible race.
Incredible.
And he's going to be something sensational. I've been saying that for 4 or 5 years with my brother and Howie and manager, but we didn't land him as a manager for him, but he's doing a fabulous job. And I think he's going to be the future just beginning for him. And also the marathon, looking forward to my Team USA, both men and women. Emily Sisson is a good friend of mine. I'm looking for her to do something special. And O'Keefe, second marathon. My fourth marathon was a silver. We'll see what happens with her, but I think for her, tactics is going to be important in the marathon. And Connor Mintz and Clayton, I went to Utah. Somebody flew me out there to visit them, surprise them. So I took my silver medal to show them, to let them touch it in February, just so they can feel what is waiting for them in Paris.
So cool.
I just sent them, in fact, I just sent them a text this morning thinking about them, praying for them to do something about them. And Korea also is a good competitor that I have known from the past. So it's going to be special interest. But the 1,500 meters, a lot of talks also on that and the men's side. So, hopefully it'll be a big surprise on that. There's a lot of hype, but all the hypes have lived up to the expectation. But there's always a dark horse, so we'll see what happens there.
It's the cool part about our sport because you just never know. On the day, it can be anybody's day or it could be anybody's.
You can be 39th and then come with a silver medal. So
it's so fun to watch because you just can't predict what's going to happen.
That's why it is must-see TV. It is the one thing that, as you said, brings everyone together, sports in general, but specifically the Olympics, because you just never know. You can always have this underdog, and then everybody cheers for the underdog because you think that could be me. That person could be me. It could not be, but it's the one person that they didn't expect to win, and then they're out there killing it.
President Nelson Mandela from South Africa said that word. Sports unites us more than anything else, and we can go to the elevator. So, what do you think of that? Or, walk at lunch and something else, and you can see people what uniform or who you cheering for. Or it might be Ecuador race walking or things like that. But it is something that for everybody, and then running, 5K, 10K, cross country, kind of most participated sport, and you can relate to those when you say, oh, I can barely break 24 minutes for a 5K, but when they're running, the women's are running 14 flat and things like that. That's incredible because we can only imagine, for me, the sprinters, I'm a marathoner on 5K, but I start with a mile. So when I'm running the mile, visualizing the miles, like, they ran 322 or 332. And I said, I was 10 seconds off. You can imagine yourself doing that. So gymnastics, I just got to watch and say, wow.
Yeah. And the cool part about our sport is we actually get to be on the same courses as them. Yeah. We get to know, I ran New York. Meb ran New York. Meb ran the same exact course as me. Yeah. So, we're the only sport that gets to do that. It's such a special sport.
It is. And then I think, when I do autographs, I express that. So when somebody says, I was at your 2009 New York City Marathon, and then when I'm citing, when they buy a book and sign them, I'm saying, great to share the New York routes with you because they know, I was 30 minutes behind you. I was an hour behind you. But every step of the way at mile 18, I was feeling the same pain that you guys were going through. It's just so you can relate to that and being relatable and be in the same course is so important. And be able to share those experiences. Like it could be different years. Like, man, that, First Avenue of New York was incredible crowd. So you did the same thing because they cheer for everybody the same way.
By the way, you signed my back of my shirt. It hasn't been washed since. I'm just going to let you know. But I was all goofy and so geeked out. I was meeting Meb. I was like,
when Maria first met Meb for the first time, she said, I'm not going to talk about this on the podcast, but of course she's going to.
Well, I was geeked out. I literally, and then I'm like, this guy must think I'm crazy because I'm like, can you write a training plan on the back of my shirt? I'm like, did I really just say that out loud?
Well, one thing I want to know real quick, I know we're kind of running out of time. Did you stay in the Athletes Village those years? What's that like?
I did my first Olympic. I stayed in the Athletes Village, and I said, those are fine-tuned machines, men and women, and you're on the borderline of getting sick. So if there's something going around, you're gonna get it.
Yeah. Oh,
because, But the most interesting at that point was, which restaurant was the busiest. You have this, Africa cuisine. You got the Italian cuisine. You got the Indian cuisine, and then Asian. Everybody's at the McDonald's.
Oh my gosh, like, really? No way.
Bunch of athletes eating McDonald's.
That's really?
Yeah. And I'm saying, if you are in the McDonald's line and you are before my race, I got you in my back pocket.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So it's pretty cool though, but we treat ourselves because we've been so strict diet and when your race is done, you'll be able to go there and have the fries and nuggets and whatever else that you have there.
Just before the race.
But my daughter was telling me, I think, Muffin is very popular is what I'm hearing. She said that, at the Athletes Village in Paris.
I've never heard of it.
Well, this is just this year. One of the athletes is so enamored with these muffins that are at the village, and he's gone on TikTok, and so the whole world knows that this man loves the chocolate muffins at the Athletes Village. It's all anyone can talk about.
Yeah.
Except for Snoop and Martha, because they're great.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart and Snoop, they're funny.
Yeah, they're funny. And but yeah, the Athlete Village is pretty exciting. If you are a marathoner, in Athens, I stayed in village for a few days before my race because I stayed as long as possible at the training camp in Crete, which was a beautiful island.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so and then when you come back to the village at one night, get your credential. The same thing with Rio and London. I just got my credential, and then my family was with me, so we stayed at the hotel. And because the marathon is the last event. And
that must be
a lot of parties
scary.
happening at the village, just staying out, keeping you out. So
Yeah.
you want to prioritize your
How do you
course
get
and train
not
for.
crazy about getting sick? Like, how do you? I would think just even the travel there, staying with all those people. Like, how do you just not think about it, or you try not to think about it? Oh,
Hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
Yes,
Hand
you gotta
sanitizer.
carry this. I did this after I won the New York City Marathon. I'm making so many appearances, so this never leaves in my left pocket because I know where it is. I just refill it every time and hand sanitize. This is not because of the virus COVID. This has happened since 2009. So everybody knows that. This one and chapstick, it has to be in my pocket all the time.
I mean, Andy, your dad. Like, it's hard because your kids come home and bring you lots of viruses too. Like, that is hard.
It's pretty scary because when I was in Mammoth, poor Fiore, my middle child, she came with a sniffle right like the Wednesday or the before the New York City Marathon. I'm like, what do I do now? So I'm like, oh, sorry, I got to go to my training partner, Brian Ball, so I can avoid that but it turned out to be all allergies, but you get scared. It's like you just put tons of weeks of mileage and 2, 3, 4 months of training, and the marathon, you can't come back next week. You don't have it. So a lot is riding on this, and especially also the Olympics is every 4 years. So like the flu that I got, and in Sydney, that was kind of like, it is what it is. But at the same time, when you're not gonna get your 100 performance, but you can get 85, 90% still good.
Oh, that's good. Good to know.
Meb is now using his hand sanitizer. He already feels the germs. He feels the germs. All right, well, Meb, we're not going to take any more of your time, but we so appreciate you joining us.
Yes,
you know how
so
much,
Meb.
we are inspired by you and appreciate what you do for not only the entire running community, but the running community here in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, we're all inspired.
Yes, continually inspired.
Thank you, Leigh. Maria, it's a great honor to be here with you, Run for Fun. That's a great podcast. And, that's what, at the end of the day, it's what it is, whether you are at the Olympic level or winning the Boston or New York. You got to have fun. You got to enjoy it. And we are fortunate. I used to say, I can't believe I'm getting paid to get fit, but that's what we're all trying to do. And having fun is the most important, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And running 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles is a beautiful way to start your day or end your day. So I always say run to win. It doesn't necessarily mean getting first place, but getting the best out of yourself. And there's thousands and thousands of people doing that every day. I have a lot of respect for the everyday athlete because they respect for my English. My dad has to wake up about 4:30 a.m. to learn English as a dictionary. So I understand your pain. I understand your sacrifice that you have to do. So that's why I think is the relatability, because I have to work so hard to learn this tough language, and you do a race at tough marathons, and for me that running does come easy, but I never underestimate what others are capable of doing.
Well, we will be watching the Olympics, and we will be thinking about all your 4 times out there, and
I'm so inspired. I'm going to leave here and run a marathon.
Yeah. All right, we'll
down
see.
Bayshore.
Thank you very much, Meb. We'll see everybody
Bye-bye.
later.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
let's go, let's go.